Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? Today we are going to be talking about Turbo, right? The one and only Turbo coin. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super hyped about this coin. Guys, in a couple of days, right? Listen to this. In a couple of days, it is going to be Turbo's birthday. Okay. So, and right, well, to specify its second birthday. So, this coin, it hasn't been here a long time, but it has made a impact, more than most coins could ever imagine. So I'm really excited to, be talking about this coin. This is one of those things that I just enjoy doing for you guys. Yes, I do hold Turbo, but Turbo is now less than 10% of my total portfolio, as I'm not a very big, person on holding meme coins, but I do believe Turbo is the one that is always going to be worth the risk until proven otherwise. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we'll do a very quick recap of pretty much what I said over the last week that kind of just played out, right? So, we had these pumps over here. We expected some kind of pullback downwards of the zone of 0.00175. Exactly what happened. We retest off this. We continue pushing up higher. Now, I do expect some type of pullback sooner than later, most likely once we start entering, upwards of the 0.002526 area, just because there's multiple daily, candles over here. We have 1, 2, 3. We have all of this structure here, right? And, it is just normal for the market to ping pong. Do not worry. I do believe these are the final reversals for this coin. I do not believe we will be ever going lower than this point over here of 0.0014, unless, ladies and gentlemen, it is bear season, right? That's the only time and the only exception I could possibly see. I do genuinely believe these are the reversals. We know global liquidity will be coming into the markets over the next little while, and I expect, Turbo to be pumping. In fact, it has been. We talked about how Turbo silently was climbing up, its structure, its volume, its everything, while some other coins were just kind of chilling, right? So we can see that, Turbo is marching up, and I expect nothing less from this coin. In terms of news, ladies and gentlemen, other than Turbo's birthday coming up, there is no new news at this current moment. We will be diving into the basics, and we will talk about, when Turbo should be expected to pump. We will be talking about Turbo and when it is expected for Turbo to be pumping. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, that we are already 239th, right? Remember, at one point we're like 280th, and people were, skeptical about it. Look, we're back to 160 million market cap. Volume already, once again, increasing 52 million in volume in the last 24 hours. That is what we love to see. We can see that we still have a bullish sentiment of 91%. Let me get that vote. I don't really vote often. I've probably done it like 2 times, but we can see, right, 91 to 9%. There's a reason why it is so damn high for this coin. When we go to something like the holders, ladies and gentlemen, we will see most likely a increase, right? I'm not sure how fast it's going to increase, but look, right? We are pretty much practically back to what? All-time highs? Or is this technically all-time highs, right? 3316, and there we go, 3330. So we just broke the all-time highs, amount of holders. I mean, we literally talked about it just a few days ago when we did have a big dump of roughly 100 people, letting go of Turbo. And we talked about how that's going to be a mistake. And we can see we recovered in just a couple of days, right? I expect there to be more and more bandwagon over the next few months. And I will be, really excited to be a part of Turbo's success, right? We've been talking about this coin pretty much since last May, last April, and we were talking about it every day for a few months now. And I cannot wait for the victory. I cannot wait to finally, celebrate, sell this coin, because obviously you do have to sell this coin to make money. I'm not, unless you plan on being a bag holder, I'm not planning on being a bag holder for no damn reason. We already talked about Turbo's. Turbo's purpose is to deliver us profits, right? Turbo is going to go to the damn moon, but Turbo has to return because Turbo cannot live, right? The toad cannot live on the moon. He has to come back to Earth, but the Earth is all the way, ladies and gentlemen, down in these prices. So, what I'm saying? Unless you want to return to Earth with the toad, I highly suggest landing and exiting the space station, his rocket ship, when we do land on the moon. But look, on the micro level, guys, seriously though, it is actually looking very, very well, right? We talked about this. We are consistently creating higher and higher lows, which is what we like to see. We are consistently creating higher and higher highs, which is what we love to see. Even if we go up here and have some type of pullback, we probably won't go further down than 0.0021, right? And we probably will just recover just as quick, just the way we have been in the last recent weeks. We will talk about Bitcoin a little bit, and we will talk about Bitcoin dominance a little bit, as they are a little bit relevant to us, of course, because Bitcoin is the head of the snake. It is the head of the train station. So we can see there was some type of rejection off of for Bitcoin off of this zone, because it is near its last decent relevant structure. But I do believe Bitcoin will be looking to be retesting the low 90,000s, right? This huge zone. Once we get back above 88K, I do believe the next push will be upwards of $92,500. On the micro level, right? You could debate that this is a liquidity sweep right now, right? This did liquidity sweep, and that we should be expecting more and more pumps, which I do believe we are going to be recovering. I don't think Bitcoin is going to be dropping too much. We do have this one zone that we are looking out, but the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, right, it is going to be a fake out worst case scenario, right? Bitcoin dropping back down to 82K. The reason why I say it's going to be a fake out, because we did have this structure for practically a week. So I don't expect, Bitcoin just to start closing below again. It would make zero sense in terms of structure, right? Manipulation, sure, right? I could always see some manipulation. That is just how the markets work. But that is going to be the worst case scenario. If that happens, then of course Turbo would drop a little bit. Bitcoin dominance, ladies and gentlemen, right? We are pretty much at the last relevant highs. And look, man, I expect Bitcoin dominance to continue going up. We are closer than further to, completing this whole journey. I've been talking about, 69 to roughly 71% zone being the main area where we will crash and sell off from. And then where we probably will consolidate again, roughly around the 61 to 62% zone, before then we crash very, very heavily, coming back down to these levels, which I mean, Turbo will be a part of this history, will be part of this success. And once we see, dominance down here, plus obviously looking at the Turbo structure, because, Turbo could potentially peak a little earlier, then we will be looking to be cashing out for profits, ladies and gentlemen. But that is it. I hope you guys did enjoy. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys, are killing it in the markets, buying coins when they're cheap, because trust me, everything will be turning around over the next few months. That is it for Turbo. That is it for everything, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.